Well, welcome to Q3 of the Insurance Edition launch webinar, Best Practices and Questions and Answers. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Todd Bookspan, the founder of Win by Noon, and I am really excited to talk to you all today because the Insurance Edition is one of the editions I'm most excited about. I feel like we've got great opportunity to grow this edition. Excuse me, I just ate lunch, so something in my throat apparently. I'll drink out of my fancy Win by Noon cup. You can tell I'm not a professional webinar giver right off the bat. I'm going to throw a quick poll up there because I would love to know from those of you on here whether or not, the poll's not coming up, are new or not. So if you could just tell me in the chat real quick whether you're a brand new user to Win by Noon or you've been using it for a while, that would be helpful. I'm actually going to do this webinar to both, but I always like to know who's here live. Since we're recording this and I know other people will watch it, we're going to gear this towards people who are really launching with Win by Noon, or people who want a little bit of a refresher who have been using it. Now, most of you know I am not a insurance agent, nor I've ever played one on TV. I was in the mortgage business for, almost 20 years and have a mortgage team that still runs by my wife and a business partner. I worked with a lot of real estate agents and insurance agents. And through putting out Win by Noon to loan officers and real estate agents, we were sought out by a number of insurance agents who said, gosh, it would be really awesome if you did an insurance agent specific edition. And so we partnered up with them to come up with the terms and all of the information that is tracked and recorded inside of the insurance edition of Win by Noon. And so my ask always for you is, sharpen us up. If there's something that you think, hey, this is weird, what you said here, you should call it this instead, or hey, have you thought about adding this or subtracting that? We're open for feedback from all of you. And so we're excited to have so many super users now on the insurance side. And ironically, you guys have been the quietest group of all, meaning I just haven't gotten as much feedback as we would like. The good news is that people keep renewing and people keep buying them. So I know it must be pretty darn close, but I would love to get a little bit more feedback. So as we get ready to rock and roll here, I'll kind of walk you guys through sort of what is Win by Noon first, right? So everyone's like, well, what is Win by Noon, Todd? And it's really just a day planner, right? It's a day planner that happens to track the activities and results of people who are super successful in insurance. And what I would tell you is that people who just use it literally as a to-do list and a calendar, the day planner part of it, are growing their business. How do I know this? Because I hear from people all the time. The second thing, though, is it's a business planning tool, right? It helps you actually see the activities that are leading to the results you want, helps you figure out the conversion rate. So you can essentially reverse engineer based on what you would like to see as a paycheck at the end of the year, right? How many clients am I serving? Really, how many people do I need to call this week, this month, this quarter in order to get to the result that I want? And without actually taking the time to record those activities, it's really hard to figure out how you're going to get those results that you're after. And what I find is people who actually use it as a business planning tool and a business review tool are the ones who actually grow a little bit more. In fact, a lot more than those who just use it as a to-do list in a calendar. Lastly, it's a philosophy, right? This idea of winning by noon. I don't know about you, but I got in the mortgage business to set my own hours, and that was exactly the reason I was going to fail, right? I was busy running around, reacting to other people, and I just wasn't targeted on what were my personal priorities, right? I would wake up in the day, maybe you've done this before, I'd wake up in a day, I'd have a great to-do list of actually pretty important things I wanted to accomplish, and get to the end of the day and realize I just ran around in circles all day and actually didn't accomplish any, if not, not much of those of that to-do list, maybe a few, but oftentimes not any of them. And so it's this philosophy of doing those most important activities first, right? Win by noon. And I would tell you that if you've heard the story before, is that when I was originating loans, I got frustrated. I hit this ceiling of production. It was a pretty good ceiling in the mortgage industry. I was ranked in the top 25 in the country, $80 million, over 400 loans a year. And I just felt like I could be a $100 million producer. And so I blocked my calendar to 11:30. Really more on a whim to say, gosh, you know what? I need to get this stuff done. I know you're like, well, why did you call Win by 11:30? Because it doesn't sound as cool as Win by noon. And just that commitment that I made to myself, to my clients, to my partners to be better at my job. I'm in a relatively flat year, right? We didn't add any referral partners. The market was pretty stagnant compared to the year before, but my conversion rates went up, my consistency went up, because ultimately what I thought I should do was actually getting done, right? When I knew I needed to make 7 lead calls, follow-up calls within 2 weeks, guess what? I did it. And so that's where that philosophy comes in. And I have people all the time tell me, Todd, I can't win by noon, but I can win by 2. And when I do, it's amazing. And so what I would encourage you to do is use it as a business planning tool at a minimum, and then look at the opportunity to use the win by noon part. I've got other webinars that are posted up that sort of talk through some of the scripting and the planning around how I did that as well. So if you need any info to that, just go ahead and reach out. Best way to reach me is todd@winbynoon.com. So I'll throw that out there as well. You can always private message me on social media, but just remember, if we're not friends on social media, oftentimes those messages get filtered. So I just recommend friending me first. I'll say, gosh, you're a great Win by Noon user. Of course, I'll be your friend. And then when you private message me, it'll come through. I'm happy to communicate either way. And so people always say, gosh, what do I do with Win by Noon? Where should I start? And it's overwhelming. So for those of you who are brand new users, we're going to start with a day in the life of a Win by Noon user. And then I'll talk about a week, and then we will reverse engineer it out. And so again, you can just pick any day that you want. Let's pick the 3rd, which I guess since today's July 2nd, 2019, let's do that instead. I just happened to open it there. So let's pick July 2nd, Tuesday, July 2nd. And I'll just walk you through what we've got here, how it's used, and then we'll get to the end of the week and I'll show you guys ideal week. And then I'll let you guys ask questions. Feel free to ask questions in the chat as we're going. I will either answer live if it's pertinent to where we are now, or put a pin until the end if I'm going to be talking about it later. Nothing more than a calendar, right? And so I would tell you that ironically what people tell me is, you know what, Todd, this is the least used part, they might tell me. For me personally, you know what, it's got on here what I've got going on, right? It's got my dialing this morning that I did. Again, I still win by noon. I did my stuff first, and then it's got my webinars down here. And so I'm tracking what I'm doing. Where I see people who say, who don't use it, they say, well, it's in my phone already. But to me, it's visual, right? If someone calls me and says, hey, what do we have going on here? I can look, oh yeah, I can do that at 3 o'clock. I can do that at 4 o'clock. And so it just gives a visual. There's no person who can actually pull out their phone faster to look at when they're available than me, who's already got my planner open on my desk, right? I got a bookmark in my planner. I can flip it open fast if I'm sitting at a lunch meeting. I do have some people who don't believe me in that, which is fine. I'm okay with the doubters and the non-believers as well. And what they do is they use it to actually track what they did versus what their ideal week, which is what they have on their phone or on their Outlook calendar. And that's kind of a cool idea as well. If you've never actually taken the time to track your activities, it's eye-opening most of the time, right? Because ultimately what we find out most time is all the things we waste our time on during the day, where we get drawn off task, or we get drawn off a schedule. For me, what I find is when I actually write it into my planner, then I'm committed to it, right? I use that word committed a lot because I think it's really important. It's one thing to decide to do something. It's something else to be committed to do it. And so ultimately we've got that, that calendar there on the side. The next part that we have is just the top here. We've got our top 3 things, and we've got what we're grateful for. Now, the gratitude one, it's funny. When I surveyed people up front before we came out to Win by Noon about what their planners were, the people who used a paper planner actually were typically people who were using one that was around journaling and gratitude and tracking their personal habits, or they used a pad of paper, right? There wasn't a whole lot of people using it as a business planning tool like Win by Noon is designed. And so we built in the gratitude because there's so many studies out there that say if you start your day in gratitude, you're just going to be in a better mindset. My encouragement there would be, if you are grateful for similar things, like I'm grateful for my family every day, grateful for my wife every day. And I do my best to put something different that I'm grateful for. Maybe I'm grateful for the great dinner we all had together last night. Maybe I'm grateful for the fact that I took a walk around the block with our dogs and my oldest daughter who's back home from college, and those types of things, right? Pick something different, challenge yourself, push yourself. Although I would tell you, I see a lot of people who send it to me and they're like, I'm grateful for my spouse, I'm grateful for my kids, I'm grateful for my team, right? That's great. You know what? If that works for you, then do that. Top 3 is interesting. I'm a productivity nerd, right? I got all these productivity books up here on the shelf behind me. And when you read those books, what they'll tell you about productivity 100% is that your top 3, your vital few, whatever you're going to call that those are your top 3 jobs, right? So as an insurance agent, you can choose, but my guess is it's probably a lead conversion, right? Get a lead. How do I convert it? Quotes maybe is what it is, or the client consultation, help them do it. Maybe it's your annual review that you're doing with your clients to see if they're still in the best coverage for what they've got going on. And so it would be your top 3 things to remind you every day to stay on task for your most important things. That's what they're all going to tell you. And I would tell you that very few Win by Noon users use it that way, myself included. I use it for my top 3 things of the day, right? What are the top 3 things I want to accomplish today? So mine today says dial, says webinars, because I'm doing 2 webinars, the executive one after this. And then the third thing is a leadership dinner that we're hosting for some local leaders this evening. And so for me, I use it to remind me of that. Now below, here's where the rubber hits the road, and I think what is the magic secret sauce of Win by Noon. And so right here, we're going to start tracking our calls, right? So we record our activity. So here we've got lead and client calls. And so for me, a lead is somebody who is a name that I was given, or someone who reached out to me and is interested in getting insurance. And that person I haven't connected with, and I haven't had the opportunity to actually talk to them, quote them, and turn them into a client. So every time I dial them, I'm going to put an X here. That's it, right? I have some people like, well, what if I'm texting them? Well, if that's a way that's effective for you, I just personally would put a T in there. So that way I know it's a different form of communication. I can start seeing what am I getting better results with, phoning people or texting people. We've also got partner calls here, right? So again, you've got some partners in your business. I know when I was doing the mortgage business, I got hit up by insurance agents all the time who wanted to send us their business. So you have partners in your business that you need to keep in touch with. So again, every time you're calling one of them, you're gonna track that there. And then there's just this other, right? So again, other is up to you. It's what am I gonna use that for? I could use that for my annual insurance review calls. I could use that for if I want to differentiate those, right, other than a client call. I could use those for when I'm going after new partners. Hey, I called 3 new mortgage lenders today. Hey, I called 3 new financial advisors today. You could use that for recruiting calls. If you're building up a branch of agents, you could use that as a leader for recruiting calls. So that's just there for you to use whatever you want, or you can use it for extra partner or even client calls. Again, any questions, just throw it in chat. What's weird about this, and first I felt odd, like, I'm not getting any questions. But what I have found is that now I've done this webinar for Win by Noon users, I don't know, close to 100 times. And at first I got a lot of questions, and I built in what I've seen the other users have as questions. And even though this is the first official insurance webinar like this, I've actually talked dozens of insurance agents through the product in the past. The next here are kind of interesting. We've got quality conversations, and then we've got internal and external meetings. And so I'll walk you guys sort of through what that is. So a quality conversation is, who did I actually talk to? And people are like, well, what determines whether it's a quality conversation or not? This isn't just a contact where you call the lead, they said, not interested, click. That's, to me, is not a quality conversation. What I want to know is how many people did I actually get a hold of and have a conversation and learn about them, communicate something. If it could be a client just communicating something about a claim that they filed, right? That you talked to them and said, hey, I just want to make sure that the claims department took care of your claim okay. And they said, yes, right? It's just where you actually had some meeting of the mind, some kind of conversation where you can discuss something together. Yes, it can be text, same thing, right? Just be consistent with how you do it. Early on, we've been tracking like this on the mortgage side since 2014. And I would tell you that back in the beginning, texting wasn't as big a part of that business. And I said, maybe, right, if it's a way that you're doing business, then do it. Now I'm saying definitely, because I know even in my business, I'm using text as a more frequent way of communicating, but I still think nothing outdoes just the good old-fashioned communicating and building rapport and relationship with your clients over the phone. We have internal and external meetings. And again, we do that because we've got a lot of you who are leaders who use it. So what I say, an external meeting is with a client. I'm meeting with someone from outside of my organization. Internal is when I'm meeting with someone inside of my organization, especially for those of you doing recruiting, right? You always want to be recruiting those within because you don't want to lose your people to somebody else. You want to make sure that you're continually meeting with them, helping them business plan, maybe with Win by Noon. And so then there's the internal and external meeting piece. And then below that is leads, right? And again, you all probably have a CRM that you're using. And for me personally, right, I'll put a lead in there, right? So I'll write a lead in there, and then once it's in my system, we've got these little cute check boxes there that you can actually neatly do it. But for me, it's just done like this, right? So once it's in the system, then it just gets a big X through it. It's crossed out, and I move on. And then down below, this is really where the rubber hits the road, right? That's really all the recording of the activities and the results. You'll notice here you've got some blank ones, right? So that's just for anything else that you want to follow up. So if you look at mine, like I did 3 Facebook Lives and 2 webinars yesterday and 1 live teaching of Win by Noon. So I track that with my blank spots. I want to know, hey, these are things that are important to me driving my business forward with Win by Noon. And I track those. So for you, it may be something else in there, maybe a new habit that you want to watch after, maybe some other activity. And again, I would love to know what it is that you add in there. That would be great for me to see. And so ultimately, you've got your leading client calls, which are going to total up. And the reason is you want to know how many people do I have to dial, right, before I actually get a quality conversation. And then you've got your partner calls, quality conversations. Again, you're just going to total up those things. There's no real surprises there between what you have. We found out from the agents that we surveyed that they like to record how many seminars they go to. Again, we put policy reviews on there. And let's just talk about that. All the agents I've interviewed, some do this, some don't. I would encourage you to think about it, right? It's what you all have, which is unique, is really, really high renewal rates. And so I don't think you need to actually, it's not as important as it is for a mortgage loan officer or real estate agent to be doing these annual reviews. But I would encourage you to consider putting it as a practice, because even though you have a high retention rate, well, what if you just pushed it 1% higher or 2% higher by checking in with your clients, once a year, just to say, gosh, you know what, I'm so grateful for your business, and you're renewing in a month. Is there anything that's changed that I should be aware of, right? Anything going on with your family, your job, any new vehicles? I mean, hopefully they would have called you with that. And then, great, everything looks really good in place. I'll keep watching. If something changes, let me know. Oh, and by the way, you know what? I've spent my time on these annual mortgage reviews versus spending my time going out there and trying to market. So if there's any friends or family that you think would benefit from an insurance review, I'd love the opportunity to serve them. Some script like that I think might be good. And I'll be talking about that a little later with the ideal week. And then the results, right? Leads, quotes, right? How many personal lines, commercial lines, what you're doing, right? X dated, and then policies sold. And so you're really just trying to track not only what did I get at the end, right? Most of us look at our paycheck, right? That's what we look at. And then maybe we say, okay, well, I did this many quotes and I got this many, clients. I think that you want to look at these different stages on the result side. And then most importantly, really in the end, if you're like, hey, I want to actually have a bigger book next year, I'm helping 200 families now. I'd like to be helping 250 families. Wouldn't it be good to know how many calls do you need to make to leads in order to get someone on the phone, in order to be able to get a quote, and then how many of your quote percentage, what percentage are you actually converting through the process? And what I find is that when people take the time to do that, kind of discover that mystery of their business by recording, then you'll get there. And the reason I start with the day, not with anything else, is that you don't really know what this looks like if you haven't been recording this all along. And so you probably started yesterday. If you didn't start yesterday, start today. Just start tracking, recording your day throughout the day, right? There's no bad, like, oh my gosh, I didn't have a good day yesterday, right? You're going to have good days and bad days. Law of averages kicks in. At the end of the week, we'll talk about that in a minute. You'll have results to look at, and then you can make a plan for next week. After 2 weeks, you'll have better data, and then you'll be able to better make a plan for the following week. After 3 weeks, a month, right? All that over time, you're going to have more opportunity. The flip side of the page is also pretty straightforward, right? We got a to-do list here with your by noon priorities, section for notes, and then a couple critical things. At the very bottom is the highs of my day. That is the bookend to my gratitude, right? Gratitude is what am I grateful for this morning? Highs of my days, what am I grateful for at the end of the day? Like, what went really well? What great conversations did I have? Who did I connect with? What am I feeling really good about at the end of the day? You'll also notice at the bottom, it's got I was proactive or reactive, and I finished before or afternoon. So for me today, I did what I was supposed to do for 3 hours, and I finished it before noon. Yesterday, I taught at 10, had to leave at 10:30. I taught at 11. Guess what? I finished afternoon. And I also had scheduled time in the afternoon then to make sure that I did my follow-up calls. I actually worked at the office a little later than I would have liked, but ultimately I wanted to make sure I accomplished the commitments that I made during the day. The other thing that's on there is the part that I mentioned before too, is what we call habits of success, right? So you'll see here, this is just other things that we've gotten feedback from Win by Noon users, including a blank line, which is for a new habit that you want to install. Like for me right now, I'm reinstalling an old habit of meditation. And so I'm checking the box, right? Did I do my meditation this morning or not? On time is time working on your business. If you're on a team, you may not have that, but if you're actually an individual, right? That's, hey, I'm going to do a promotional 4th of July card to all of my clients, wishing them happy 4th of July. That's going to take time. That's working on your business versus creating a quote, following up people. That's working in your business. Social media, we put that on there this year a little reluctantly. I spoke at Gary Vee's event, Agent 2021, and just a reminder that it's so important that we have social media as part of our strategy as one leg. It can't be all of it, but it should be one leg of it. But I also put on there, let's commit to what we're going to do. How many posts a day or a week? And then how much time am I going to spend? Because what I tend to find is that most of us, we know the addictive way that Facebook and Instagram are designed. And I'm reading a book right now. That's why I paused. It's called Digital Minimalism. It's super interesting, by Cal Newport. And he talks about Sean Parker, one of the original founders, talking about how, absolutely, they designed it to get people's attention and keep them, hooked into the system. And so I want you to be cognizant of how much time you're spending on social media. Handwritten notes, sleep, right? Handwritten notes, sleep. Again, these are just things that are habits of a champion, right? These are the things that people track who want to be the best that they can do, be the best they can be. Morning routine, evening routine, and that blank. And so again, just start there and start using it, day in and day out. And again, it doesn't have to be pretty. I mean, mine is normally, pretty messy, right? I mean, you can see here, I took notes yesterday. I took notes from the meeting I was at in the bottom, and I started working on the top on the people I was talking to. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be whatever it is for you. Now, where people start to get overwhelmed is when they get to the end of the week, right? So at the end of the first week, which I'm going to flip to real quick, is your weekly review. And like I said, one of the things that this is, it's a business planning tool that you plan and review your week. So the first thing you're going to do is just go through here and see, how did you do, right? You're going to rate yourself on a number of different things and really say, what was I great at? What did I stink at? And this is so important, because if you're not taking time to learn from your activities, then you're really going to stall out for improvement. If you want to get the most momentum and really get the most gain going forward, it's really taking time each week to look at, how did I do this week? What can I do better, right? What is it that I got stalled on? And so we asked them a couple of prompting questions there. And then really all you're doing is you're going to start totaling up your activities, right? Now you'll notice here that it's got a goal that, well, you didn't set a goal because you've never done this before. That's why I'm having you track it. So all you're going to do is do your totals for the week. And then here you have this week ahead action plan. And this is where you're going to set your goals for next week. And so this is where I want you to sit there and think about this and say, okay, all right. Yeah, you know what? I made 40 lead calls last week, and I only talked to 5 of them, and I only gave out 4 quotes. Well, you know what? My business isn't going to drive if I'm only doing 4 quotes a week. So I need to do 8 quotes a week in order to hit my quota for myself. So if I only did 40 calls, maybe I need to do 80 calls, right? We're going to start off with a law of averages and just use numbers. And then, so now you can make a little better educated guess at what you should do this week. And then you're just going to put those numbers right in here. Now, I will say, in full disclosure, we do have the business planning piece, and you see that right in the first couple pages of the book. Now, I'm not going to run through the business planning part, but I'll tell you where you can learn the whole business planning process. If you go to winbynoon.com/business planning tool. If you're watching this online, put it down below. winbynoon.com/business planning tool. There you can download a free quarterly business planning tool that you can use with your favorite loan officer, your favorite executive, your favorite real estate agent. And there's a video tutorial that you'll get to log into, and it walks through the business planning process. The challenge is, if you've never recorded your activities before, it's really difficult to start fresh. That's why I'm starting with one day, telling you at 1 week, then you can review your week, then you can plan your next week. And then on the opposite page is the ideal week. And the ideal week for me is my favorite thing. When I did a 90-day group coaching program at the end of last year, the people who grew the most, the people who went, from like 0 to 1 loans a month to 3 to 4 loans a month within 60 days, were the people who actually designed their ideal week and executed their ideal week, right? That is super, super critical. Because what I find is when you actually look at your week and say, gosh, this is what I have. Now, this is a bad week for me to show you my week because ultimately I'm going on vacation. But, again, I've got my 3 days that I'm in the office here already planned out. I added a coffee meeting this afternoon, so it got on there or for tomorrow afternoon. But I can look at my week and see exactly what are my commitments, right? So if someone called me today and said, oh, gosh, Todd, are you available to do a video conference tomorrow at 2 o'clock? I could really quick say, yep, I am. But more importantly, it's knowing what are those things you have to do. So again, on mine, you'll notice right off the bat, I had the team that I was talking to here, and I had dial, right? I have my dialing time. I'm committed to dialing. And I think you guys need to also. If you're focused on generating new business, then you need to have that committed time to make those calls. And what I tend to find is that I think in your business on an ideal week, I think that there are daily disciplines that you should be doing every day. I think that your lead calls every day, right? The historic numbers for lead conversion is typically 6 calls to reach 90% of cold prospects. And there's all sorts of different strategies on how to do it. I already mentioned I used to do 7 calls. At the time, that's what all the statistics said. But we all know 1 call typically is not going to cut it. If it's referred in, then maybe they're more likely to call you back, but typically 6 calls to convert a cold lead. And so you want to make sure you've got time for that. And I find that most people think it's a good idea, but fail to execute because they don't have that time committed in their calendar to do it. So I think you guys should be doing that every day. I also think you should be making database calls every day, right? Maybe that's 5 for you. Maybe it's 3 for you, but I think you should have some committed time where you say, you know what, I've got to call 25 of my clients a week. I'll call 5 a day. And where you're just calling to touch base and seeing how they're doing, right? I think get in that whole idea of reminding them that you're their agent, because that's the best way to get referrals. And that's really the easiest and least expensive way to grow your business. And then I would really just think through, are there any other things that I can systematize in my business? Maybe in the mortgage side, I teach loan officers on Friday to do annual mortgage reviews. So maybe Friday is the day where you say, you know what, I'm committed. I'm going to call 5 of my clients who have renewal dates this next month. I'm going to call them on Fridays. And so set up a system where you're doing things like that. Again, if you're getting a lot of business from referral partners, then I would pick a referral partner day. Maybe Thursday's your day where you check with referral partners. How are you doing, right? And people are like, well, I never thought of that. And that's okay, right? You're talking to them, but you're talking to them sporadically, not proactively, right? You're talking to them reactively when they refer you something, or when you have a question for them, or maybe you're bored and you need some business. And so I would be proactively checking in with my best referral partners weekly, my next tier maybe every other week, and then everyone else maybe every 3 to 4 weeks. And then, it's super easy right now. We have 4th of July coming up, right? So the last few weeks, I would have been asking people, what are you doing for 4th of July? I've been writing it in my CRM. And then guess what? My next call would be, hey, well, how was your 4th of July at the beach with your family? How was your boating trip with your kids and your sister-in-law? Whatever that looks like for you. But it's super easy because there's 9 months a year that have a holiday, so you can always ping those calls around those holidays. It could be, hey, just checking in, right? Just checking to see how you're doing. Anything I can help you with. It could be an update, right? Hey, this is changing in insurance, right? Hey, I don't know if you saw this after the hailstorm we had. Hey, this is impacting a lot of your clients. Our company didn't raise rates, but everyone else did. And, so if you hear anyone complain about it, I'd love to give them a call. If your mortgage loan officer is doing mortgage reviews, say, hey, any chance you're willing to ask your clients to refer them over to me for a insurance review? Maybe I can save them some money. Idea of the day. Same thing with your real estate agents, right? We're encouraging real estate agents to use tools to keep more proactive with their clients so that their clients don't view the online engines as the expert. And so these are those things I would encourage you to build out into your ideal week. And then really from there, at the end of the month, you're going to be doing the totals, a monthly review. Once you get through month 1, then you'll say, gosh, I got a 4-week average. That's going to be a whole lot better than when you do it at the end of this week, because you'll have had more time, more calls in there to average in. And I think you can fine tune, this is what I'm going to commit to this week. Same thing at the end of the quarter, right? More data, 3 months of data. And then that's really where we're seeing that people who are growing the most with Win by Noon have adapted into their day, into their week, the commitment of the activities that they know will get them to the results that they want. And at the very end, it's got, again, kind of like a weekly review. It's got a little bit more intense, in-depth monthly review, a keep, improve, start, stop. What do I want to keep doing? What do I want to improve that I'm doing? What I want to start doing that I keep talking about, like maybe a new postcard campaign. Maybe I want to start Win by Noon. Well, I guess you're already doing that. What do I want to stop doing, right? Maybe there's something that you're doing right now. Maybe a networking group that's not getting the results you want that you just need to stop. Maybe there is a marketing campaign you're spending money on that you realize it's not effective and you need to stop doing it. And so kind of in brief, that's sort of the whole overview on there. I'll throw a couple of other resources out there. Again, winbynoon.com/business planning tool. I think that that's a great opportunity for you to actually go through the business planning process with me. And then you also have the opportunity to share it with others, right? Anytime that you actually learn something yourself and share it with others, then you have an opportunity to internalize it more and grow more, and then obviously help somebody else. We'll continue to have these webinars. I'm going to be more committed to the insurance crowd. If Win by Noon really resonates with you, I'm definitely looking for a couple of people to be kind of, ambassadors for Win by Noon in the insurance space. And as we're really just trying to make a push as we head through the rest of 2019 into 2020 to grow, this portion of it, so we can put more resources and information out there for all of you. And make sure you're involved in our Win by Noon user mastermind group. Again, it's mainly loan officers and real estate agents, but the more insurance agents I get in there, the more opportunity I think there will be for a different perspective, right? You can actually share a lot with us that I think would help all of the rest of the community grow. And lastly, I'm just grateful for y'all taking the time to be here. It really means a lot. I know you're really busy, and I hope you found that this was a valuable use of your time. Any additional questions, like I mentioned earlier, you can reach me on social media or Todd@winbynoon.com. Thanks so much. I hope you guys have an amazing, amazing day.